Welcome to This Explainer. So let's dive right into The Roots of K Martial Arts, a 2030 Vision. Today we're looking at a wildly unique philosophical perspective on South Korea's historical destiny. It frames the nation not just as a pop culture powerhouse, but literally as the spiritual anchor for humanity's future. It's this sweeping vision connecting post-World War II history, the 1988 Olympics, the global obsession with the Korean language, and, get this, the future of martial arts. The speaker hooks us right out of the gate with a huge claim. Since the end of World War II, South Korea has essentially been acting like a massive, global sponge. The idea here is that all the foundational knowledge, culture, and wealth of the international community has been quietly funneling into Korea for decades. They've been meticulously absorbing all of it, going through this rigorous 70-year prep phase for a monumental global task they're destined to fulfill.
Part 1. Korea as Humanity's Root. To really unpack this, the speaker uses a fantastic overarching metaphor of a giant tree. Imagine humanity as this massive ancient tree. In this vision, post-World War II Korea is positioned right at the bottom, acting as the very root. All that global knowledge and culture, well, that acts as the water. It flows down into the roots where it's absorbed, processed, and enriched. And the ultimate goal? To eventually pump all that good stuff back up to nourish the branches, which represents the rest of the world.
But there was a bit of a stumbling block in this grand design. The speaker points out that after 70 years of basically soaking up all this immense knowledge, the nation initially struggled to find its true footing. Rather than immediately stepping up to lead and nourish humanity, the argument is that Korea acted, well, a little selfishly for a few decades. They took the knowledge, they grew incredibly capable, but they focused mostly on their own survival and success rather than their mandate to guide the world. To map out this destiny, the speaker gives us a very specific timeline. We start way back at the post-World War II absorption phase, hit a massive milestone in 1988, fast forward to today's cultural explosion, and finally arrive at a major paradigm shift predicted for the year 2030. Let's break these milestones down, one by one.
Part 2. The first opening, 1988.
So the speaker highlights 1988 as the first opening, and this is framed as an absolutely huge deal. It marks the very first time in 5,000 years of history that Korea truly, physically opened its doors to the international community. Through the Asian Games and then the Seoul Olympics, the nation opened its airways and seaways, basically shouting to the world, "Hey, we're here." But here's where we hit a crucial disconnect between appearance and reality. During those '88 Olympics, Korea famously sang the theme song Hand in Hand, proclaiming that the world is one. They invited everyone, right? But the speaker argues they were totally unprepared to genuinely embrace, understand, and guide the humanity they just invited over. They opened the front door, sure, but they hadn't cultivated the internal spiritual maturity needed to actually lead the people who are now watching them.
Part 3. The ultimate Hallyu, language.
Fast-forwarding to today, the speaker zeroes in on something fascinating. The world is currently in an absolute frenzy to learn the Korean language. And we're not just talking about catching the lyrics to K-pop songs or watching TV shows without subtitles anymore. The speaker calls this the Hallyu of Hallyu, the ultimate, defining Korean wave. Linguists everywhere are diving into the language. High schools and top-tier universities internationally are rolling out Korean curriculums faster than ever before.
So why the huge language boom right now? Well, the lecture asserts that learning the language is actually the catalyst that will inevitably draw the people of the world back to Korea, back to that root we talked about. By learning Korean, global citizens are building a direct communicative bridge. It's that critical first step that lets people deeply understand the culture, which basically sets the stage for them to physically and spiritually return to the root for more nourishment.
Part 4. The second opening, 2030.
This massive influx of global interest leads right into the speaker's major prediction, drawing a super sharp contrast. Think about it like this. The 1988 first opening was just a physical introduction. It was Korea saying, "Look at us, we exist." But the 2030 second opening, that demands something entirely different. The speaker predicts that by 2030, the world will be flocking to Korea, actively seeking deep answers and guidance. So this time around, Korea absolutely has to be spiritually and intellectually ready to receive the world and pump those highly refined cultural nutrients back out to the branches of humanity.
Part 5. K Martial Arts Spirit.
Okay, so the obvious question is, how exactly does Korea provide this spiritual nourishment by 2030? According to the source material, the answer lies in the evolution of K martial arts. The speaker defines K martial arts as way more than just kicking and punching. It's a profound spiritual culture. The idea is to take the physical practice of Taekwondo and weave it together with the ancient Korean philosophy of Hanguk Ingun. Now, Hanguk Ingun roughly translates to the spirit of broadly benefiting all of humanity. By infusing martial arts with this incredibly selfless, unifying philosophy, it stops being just a workout and transforms into a global spiritual movement.
Part 6. Muju, a global academy.
To actually pull off this visionary 2030 goal, the speaker points to a very specific physical hub, Muju. Now, Muju is a massive Taekwondo facility in South Korea, but the lecture vehemently stresses that it has to be more than just a training ground. It cannot just be a playground for athletes. Muju literally has to evolve into a true academic and spiritual research institute. It's framed as the sacred space where the philosophy of Hongik-Ingan and the physical practice of Taekwondo are formally researched, combined, and codified for the world.
This gives Mujo a super practical 3-step mandate. First up, establish rigorous research programs to really nail down what this spiritual culture is. Second, act as an international academy. Actively attract global martial artists who are hungry to understand the philosophical roots of their practice. And third, officially export this refined K martial arts culture to the rest of the world. Basically, completing the cycle and sending those vital nutrients back up the branches of humanity's tree.
It's an incredibly ambitious timeline, isn't it? And such a deeply compelling way to look at cultural evolution, reframing a nation's history as this deliberate 70-year preparation for global service. As we wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you pondering this provocative question drawn straight from the speaker's philosophy. Can a physical martial art truly evolve into the unifying spiritual culture of humanity by the year 2030? Thank you so much for joining us to unpack this fascinating vision. And as always, keep asking the big questions.